The Museum of Failure houses some of the world's greatest flops. Visitors can see attractions such as Crystal Pepsi, Carrot Cake Oreos, and of course, the Don Lemon exhibit. So where the hell is Don? And is he as good as gone? Another CNN gas bag is potentially biting the dust as CNN's arrogant a-hole, Don Lemon, wasn't at work today. This after coming under fire for saying presidential candidate Nikki Haley is past her prime because she's 51 years old. Yeah, me too. Hashtag. Although asking Don when a woman is in her prime is like asking a vegan how he likes his filet mignon.
What happens when the sharpest tongue in late-night TV meets a CNN veteran? Not only did Greg Gutfeld make fun of Don Lemon, but he also made him a cautionary tale for anyone clinging to stardom with a teleprompter and a bad attitude. This takedown was more incisive than Don's primetime exit and louder than his ego. Prepare to chuckle, wince, and press the rewind button.
They like the misogyny. They like all of it, because if they didn't, they wouldn't support him. Yeah, Democratic cities are in chaos right now. Is this what you want from Joe Biden? And they're going to take your country away, and they're taking down the statues. And
crime is rising as they defund police.
Oh my gosh, it's so bad. And they get defunding police. It's like...
Biden just did a presser on the crime wave, buddy. If you brought this guy within a mile of a lie detector, it would explode. I haven't seen that many bad opinions since the initial reviews of this hit show. Whatever happened to those people? So why is he so defensive about expressing opinion?
The myth, the inadvertent comedic act, is Don Lemon. If mediocrity had a face, it would be him, supported by a zip code-specific ego and a teleprompter. It's difficult to see him conduct journalism. It's like watching Shakespeare be butchered in slow motion.
Don Lemon rolls his eyes watching Melania agonize. Our video of the day comes to us from the destitute douchebag known as Don Lemon, who mocked a recent post from former First Lady Melania Trump demanding answers to her husband's assassination attempt. Here's her original video.
And we need to uncover the truth.
Does he always look at women that way? Obviously, not much empathy shown from Don Lemon, which makes sense for him because if anyone around him ever gets shot in the head, I guarantee you it's self-inflicted.
Then, like a cocky jerk, Greg Gutfeld entered the room, ruined the celebration, and challenged you to make it right. He appeared like a chainsaw of sarcasm in a world of scheduled, comfortable conversation. There was no chance for Don Lemon. Monster truck versus Prius with bags was more of a demolition derby than a debate.
The opinion that Don Lemon doesn't do opinion.
I don't do opinion, and I know that the difference for me is I do point of view. So I'm giving my point of view as an American, as a black man who happens to be gay, but I'm through that lens. But I also represent CNN, and so I must tell the truth. And if I don't, if my facts are wrong, then I have to clarify it, and I have to come on television, and I have to apologize, and I say I got that wrong.
That has never happened. So he's telling you what he bases his opinions off of. At the same time, he tells you he doesn't give opinions, just point of view. Look up what point of view means. It means opinion.
Don Lemon, bless him, believed that his self-importance and serious anchor voice would serve him well for a lifetime. The issue? After a while, viewers realized the car was stationary. His voice had the emotion of a broken Siri and the profundity of a washed-out fortune cookie. He mistook buzzwords for genius, confusing volume with virtue and tone with truth.
Part of his return, Lemon will reportedly be forced to undergo sensitivity training. And then he'll have to wear a cone for a couple of weeks after they remove his testicles. God, I want to see that. I mean, his training. But CNN is reportedly already testing a less offensive new show to replace him. I believe we have a clip.
Enter Greg Gutfeld, a man who enjoys making fun of others like a child roasting ants and a Navy SEAL on a mission. It was messy, one-sided, and strangely satisfying to see him battle Don Lemon. It was like watching a marshmallow peep versus a flamethrower. Lemon genuinely thought the air around him was too aristocratic for the typical observer, lost in the enchanted forest of his own ego. He approached every interaction as though he were trying out for the title of most smug man alive, with Gutfeld already backstage, constructing a catapult driven by sarcasm. Lemon's illusion shot directly into orbit upon launch, placing it next to Blockbuster and MySpace.
Part of his identity, his emotional assessment of stuff. Why can't he say, "Hi, I'm Don Lemon, and I have more opinions than a meth-addled cab driver"? Instead, we have to laugh at his nightly denials. After me, he's the funniest late-night show host on TV. Perhaps it's a defensive response to our accurate criticism of CNN. And we're only trying to help them. A strong CNN makes for a stronger Fox News. Competition builds character. It's why my debate coach would make me wrestle him for pencils. They were always in his front pocket.
He refrained from taking the jab directly because it would have been too simple. With just enough caffeine to make sarcasm a sport, Gutfeld poked holes in Lemon's ego like a raccoon with a law degree and a grudge. Gutfeld cracked his knuckles and turned up the common sense while Lemon delivered his standard ode to moral superiority. Visually, it was cinematic. Lemon exuded the vitality of a neglected office printer, while Gutfeld had the twitching genius of someone who is on the verge of drywall damage and a Pulitzer. Lemon is a lukewarm herbal tea that buffers on weak Wi-Fi. If energy drinks had personalities, Gutfeld would be a can of anarchy with a PhD.
Lemon and his co-hosts were chatting about Nikki's suggestion that politicians over the age of 75 should take mandatory competency tests, which would be a great idea for CNN hosts as well. Then, this happened.
Nikki Haley isn't in her prime. Sorry. When a woman is considered to be in her prime in her 20s and 30s and maybe 40s.
Prime for what?
In their
I
prime,
think we need to qualify. Are you talking about prime for like childbearing, or are you talking about prime for being president?
What the facts are. Google it.
I like that he says sorry right after it because he knows I'm.
Gutfeld, meanwhile, simply grinned as if he already knew how it would go. Spoiler alert, Lemon was flat on his symbolic face at the end. The reality? The true cause of Lemon's demise was Lemon. He bumped into reality and blamed the room as he strutted around with the self-awareness of a Roomba in a maze of mirrors. Before realizing his soapbox was a pile of out-of-date vegan cookbooks, he spoke as though every word had divine knowledge. Instead of destroying him, Gutfeld only needed to give him a little shove and watch as the tower of smug fury and buzzwords fell apart like toddlers assembling IKEA furniture. The finest aspect? Lemon believed he had won. Gutfeld simply leaned back and let his eyebrows do the work, gathering punchlines Lemon presented on a silver platter as each arrogant phrase came off like a cat dropping a dead mouse. Lemon's arguments were loud, boisterous, and ultimately worthless, like a mime having a fit.
What I'm doing and what someone, as you mentioned, over at Fox News is doing. I'm operating from a place of truth. It's all based in fact, and it's all based on the evidence that's out there.
Yeah, the key word's out there. It's a dodge. He can lie because the lie comes from truth that's out there. And it's that defense that has allowed CNN to push destructive bile about law enforcement, about the decimation of our cities due to the left-wing policies CNN parades as progress. But imagine if CNN hadn't embraced the police's racist theme and had looked up the data. If I could do it, so could Lemon, but he didn't, because if he did, Zucker would can him quicker than cling peaches.
Gutfeld dismantled Lemon with presence rather than effort. Gutfeld was already cooking marshmallows over the ashes when Lemon's technique sputtered out, akin to attempting to ignite a damp match in a cyclone of argument. Lemon seemed more like a substitute instructor that no one pays attention to when he attempted to sound like the adult in the class. In the meantime, Gutfeld drew verbal mustaches on Lemon's authority while seated in the back row. Gutfeld simply stared at Lemon like a broken Alexa while he strutted and attempted to command respect. After that, there was a meltdown because, really, what would be a Lemon segment without one? His wrinkled forehead, solemn voice, and complete lack of substance convey his fury like a kid who has been denied juice. The drama, meanwhile, was punctured by Gutfeld until it collapsed like a whoopee cushion.
I also accept that he's kind of an inspiration for an idiot. Like, if he's made it this far as an idiot. That's not true. Gay, black, liberal, he was bulletproof. Yep. He was bulletproof. Well, that's how he got so far. He still is. Yeah, he still is. He's still got a job. If you said something like that, I would fire you in a second. but I can't because you don't work for me.
In essence, Lemon's political analysis is emotional karaoke, with the same old song redone with phony intensity. Gutfeld, meanwhile, transforms those cliches into punchlines that truly make an impression by running them through a sarcasm shredder. Gutfeld responds with laser-guided satire, while Lemon offers lukewarm comments. Lemon mistook fury for insight and grandstanding for depth, which is why he lost his relevance. Lemon didn't like the reflection in the mirror that Gutfeld had just held up. You're left with a microphone and a lot of meaningless words if you take away the arrogant delivery. Instead of playing the fake optimism game, Gutfeld arrives in a clown vehicle full of opinions, honks once, and then uses a glitter bomb of sarcasm to shatter Lemon's conceit. With a fire extinguisher full of sarcasm, Gutfeld is skating circles around Lemon while he poses like a moral sage.
But that's only part of it. My favorite quote.
Talking about crime for being president.
What the facts are. Google.
Google it. It seems that's his answer for everything. So, Mr. Lemon, is there any reason why we should keep you here at CNN?
Google it.
Since then, he was conveniently off this morning, and CNN's chairman put him on blast on a call with colleagues today. For his part, Don tweeted that his comments were inartful. Inartful? They sure were, Rembrandt.
Let's discuss charisma. Gutfeld has appeal while being a sardonic gremlin. In contrast, Lemon has the coziness of a DMV printer. A man who takes himself so seriously while speaking so little has a dreadfully dull quality. He tries to be serious, but ends up sounding more like a dentist who is a little let down. In addition to making fun of Lemon, Gutfeld reveals the system's flaw. There is a man trying far too hard to seem insightful behind all the production value and serious-face journalism. But you get moral theater instead of insight. You get attitude with a dash of disdain instead of news. When there was no applause, Lemon always appeared perplexed. He thought he was being convincing by talking, and Gutfeld, who was always a master of pandemonium, simply chuckled. Why end the presentation while someone is slipping on their own banana peel in slow motion? Gutfeld wasn't Don Lemon's greatest flaw. Rather, it was his inability to be engaging without being annoying. Gutfeld arrived with a rhetorical can-opener, and he encased himself in self-righteousness like armor. This was a televised eulogy for significance rather than merely a takedown. Smugness and jargon were Lemon's weapons. Gutfeld offered humor, receipts, and the kind of sarcasm that makes public relations professionals perspire. It resembled an argument between a stand-up comedian and a philosophy professor, except the comic was far more intelligent, witty, and entertaining. Their very existence speaks for itself. As if he were at a royal wedding, Lemon breaks the news. It appears as though Gutfeld is slipping vodka into it. Lemon is irritated by the fact that one is desperate for respect while the other could not care less.
Imagine, I know this is such an easy question, but if a Republican mocked Jill Biden after Joe was nearly assassinated, say by a set of stairs.
Yeah. I mean, that person would lose their job, but oh wait, Don Lemon already lost his job.
Yes.
So, he would have lost it a second time. Look, Don Lemon used to have, second to Gutfeld, the greatest comedy show on television. Yeah. It was called Don Lemon Tonight. It was intended to be serious. One of my favorite things to do would be to grab a glass of wine and laugh at that man. He'd take these long dramatic pauses where he'd be like, are you okay? Is that man okay? Like, we need to do a wellness check. That's how crazy the show was.
Gutfeld rewrites the rules and turns every moment into a highlight video of humiliation, just when you think Lemon might make a good point. The difference? Brutal. It is comparable to bringing a coloring book to a game of chess. Lemon's issue was not only being incorrect, but also being uninteresting about it. And that's deadly in a world of media that thrives on attention. Gutfeld is aware that being memorable is more important in the game than simply being correct. Lemon? He will be known as the man who lost a roasting contest in which he was unaware that he was involved. Let's face it, Gutfeld's roasting of Lemon is poetic as well as humorous. Karma is performing stand-up. Gutfeld responded with a punchline that left skid marks for each patronizing moment that was delivered with the warmth of a tax audit. The ego was hacked through like a ginsu through tofu by every monotonous speech. This was a reckoning, not merely a media event. A man who refused to wear a suit unless you paid him to do so took down the artificial elite. Gutfeld arrived for a roast. Lemon arrived ready for a talk. And he did roast. The irony that permeated Lemon's on-air presence was accompanied by the advice to maybe don't take yourself so seriously. Lemon's name now endures, but as a joke in a Gutfeld monologue rather than as the voice of reason he envisioned. He turned into a warning about what happens when arrogance and smugness collide, and he loses badly. One man believed he was evangelizing a generation. That generation laughed at him because of the other. Greg Gutfeld, who doesn't just roast but slow cooks until the credibility slips from the bone, gave Lemon exactly what he didn't anticipate in the end: honesty wrapped in humor. Enjoy your meal.